Showers tonight, some will be heavy with possibility of isolated thunderstorms too. Mild and windy with lows of between 10 to 13 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Your chance to win big. News Talk's cash machine.
Now, we had yet another winner today when Jared Maloney answered Barry's call, won over €30,000. The cash machine has been reloaded and the new amount you need is €35,815.78. Text play to 57557. Get your entry by 3 o'clock tomorrow. And then across the Go Loud network of stations, Barry Dunn will make the call. If your phone rings, answer within 5 rings. The exact amount in euro and cents, and the cash is yours. So the new amount again, €35,815.78. Over 18s only. Text costs €2.50 and you're playing across the Go Loud network of stations. Terms and conditions are on newstalk.com.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome along. Football Show is here between 9 and 10. Latest in the Champions League, Chelsea home and hose this evening. Full time is in. Chelsea 2, Salzburg 1 away from home. In Chelsea's group, Milan 1-0 up away to Dinamo Zagreb, 48 minutes on the clock. On to Group F, Celtic are 1-0 up at home to Shakhtar Donetsk, 50 minutes on the clock. Real Madrid 2-1 down away to Leipzig in Celtic's group. On to Group G, we have Borussia Dortmund 0, Manchester City 0. And Sevilla 3-0 winners against Copenhagen earlier on in Group G. Haaland is playing this evening. City with a good old-fashioned 4-4-2 for much of the game this evening. And then Benfica 3, Juventus 1 after 48 minutes. Meanwhile, PSG 4-1 up against Maccabi Haifa. Goals from Messi on 19 minutes, Mbappe on 32 minutes, Neymar on 35 minutes, Messi on 45 minutes. Dan McDonnell, Irish Independent, hello.
Evening, Joe.
Just saw somebody who's watching the PSG game saying Messi in the best form of his life since probably 2017, 2018.
Oh yeah, I think the best form since, as opposed to the best form of his life. The best form of his life would be a high bar, wouldn't it? Is that even possible?
Since 2017, 18.
Yeah, his best form. They're just being pedantic about sentences there, really. Mm-hmm. But can it really be possible that he could get even close to where he was? I mean, I don't know. No. You want to believe, the World Cup's coming.
Well, that's why he's in such a good form.
You think? Can he trade himself to peak like that at that time?
I think
it hasn't exactly worked before.
Sat down with everybody around him and said, how do I peak for this World Cup? Absolutely. Well, he did get player of the tournament 4 years ago.
No, that is true. He actually has, in 2014.
8 years ago, excuse me.
Yeah,
where's time going?
I know. But in 2018, he had a rubbish team and he sort of pulled them through a game as well too. But 2014 actually did play pretty well in the tournament, just missed one chance in the final, and it goes into scoreboard journalism, it goes into history he had a bad time for it or something. But it would be nice to think that Messi could. I mean, he won Copa America, it'd be nice to think he could somehow be involved. But you just feel with the PSG lads, can you really get a handle on their form? Can you really there's you want to see it in the World Cup to believe it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Maccabi Haifa, they've caused a couple of shocks. They're a good side in their own right, but it's still not the type of game you'd be thinking, okay, he's back.
I would think playing in Ligue 1 when you're on PSG's team is a great way to imbue you with a sense of confidence.
Well, that's the thing.
Just feel good.
That's the thing. That's the slight concern.
Sergio Aguero has been talking on El Chiringuito, the famous show. Have you ever watched El Chiringuito?
Is that the Madrid show with the sort of the music and the sort of dramatic intonation?
The ominous soliloquies to camera.
Yeah, I mean, have I ever watched a full episode? No, I've just watched the same clips that you have.
Yeah.
Have you watched a full episode?
I keep meaning to.
Do you?
No, I do keep meaning to. I want to see it has to settle down. It can't just be him talking like that for an hour.
But there's not then segue off to someone dancing or something. Am I confusing that with the Italian sort of panel shows? Do you know when you'd see Trapp and Trapp would be on a serious when he was Ireland manager, you'd occasionally get word that Trapp had done an interview in Italy, and Trapp would A, be interviewed on screen, and then B, there'd be there'd be 4 local women dancing on the stage while Trapp would be sitting there looking quite happy with life,
right,
and then returning to more downbeat comments about football analysis.
No,
It's like a Noel's house party style show. With a bit of football thrown in.
El Chiringuito settles down to talking heads around a table.
There's no
dancing.
No fluff.
As far as I know. No, I think it's
more stern.
Yeah.
Stern discussion.
Recrimination, I think.
Okay. Hurt.
So Sergio Aguero was on, and he was talking about Pep Guardiola and his strict dietary regime. So he said, it was the first season, we were between 4th and 3rd in the Premier League, and Guardiola said to me, I left you out because you turned up fat this week. So Aguero was talking about just how strict it was. He said, you'd come across a little bit of chicken, for example. I presume he means like in his fridge of an evening. And you'd come across a little bit of chicken, and then you realise you're going to be 50 grams overweight. If your ideal weight is 79 to 80 kgs and you were 80 kgs and 100 grams, you would be fined and you wouldn't play. Kev Kilban had told me this at the time.
Yeah.
They're weighed, and the slightest little bit over, whatever your designated playing weight is, if you are 100 grams over, a couple of grams over, fined and probably wouldn't play. So he said, at the time I didn't have his confidence, I didn't have Guardiola's confidence, but I was always very respectful to coaches. He said Samir Nasri was another player who was punished for being overweight. He was made train on his own in 2016. But he's effusive about Guardiola, and he talks about how he didn't know how to press until Guardiola arrived. When I arrived, Guardiola asked me to press the centre-backs. I didn't have oxygen to attack. I wasn't used to pressing. Guardiola taught me how to do it. So...
yeah, it's complimentary. I suppose for some reason I'm thinking about Jack Grealish when he's talking about that there. And Jack Grealish, you hear stories of, remember Jack Byrne talking about it before, he'd be mates with Jack Grealish, and contrary to sort of, yes, he likes a good time and he likes a night out, but he would be, in this time it felt like an incredible trainer as well too, and incredibly dedicated and devoted. But you see Grealish, he still tries to enjoy a smidgen of a normal life, but clearly, okay, he hasn't always been in the side, so you kind of wonder, has he fallen foul at times of this? I mean, maybe that question springs to mind, but he has been involved. When he is involved on a regular basis, you're thinking he must be doing things okay within that regime.
You're telling me now Jack Grealish hasn't turned up 100 grams overweight for...
I'm saying at some stage, he's seen the chicken in the fridge.
That's such a great example. I was like, what's the truth there, Aguero? What are you actually talking about? It's not chicken in a fridge.
Yeah, is it chicken in the fridge? Is it a kebab wrapper after a night out? Not for Sergio, I would say. Jack Grealish, I'd say at the right time, he knows how to enjoy himself. We've literally seen pictorial evidence of this.
Unai Emery.
Yes.
He's back.
Aston Villa. Isn't it just the Premier League? It's a monster. You can be at Villarreal and you can be challenging for European trophies,
Champions League semi-finalist,
and you can get to that level, and you're going to Aston Villa.
Yeah,
you're going to Aston Villa. What are you going to do at Aston Villa?
Not be in the Champions League semi-final.
No, not going to be in the Champions League. You might be in the top half.
Do you think it's money?
Absolutely, but it's the place to be. This is the thing.
That's what I think it is.
And it's driving. It is the place where you want to be. It's the place in global football where you want to be at the moment. The finances, of course, helps because people around you will be wanting to drive their clients towards the Premier League. It is the place to be.
Because I asked that question because actually a wage bill is a difficult thing to compete with Premier League clubs on if you're in Spain.
Yeah.
But just one individual salary, i.e. a manager, as evidenced by Diego Simeone being the best paid manager in the world, that is an area where European clubs can compete.
Yeah.
It's very possible Villarreal could say, okay, we'll match whatever Villa are paying you, will you stay? It'd be painful for them, but it's very different to bringing all the players' wages up, which would just be exponential cost. So that's why I asked, do you think it's about more than money? And my sense is it's just, this is the place to be.
It is the place to be. And like I said, at Villa, I've been to Villa a few times, more so than other clubs in the UK, and it's a great club. It is a good place to visit, and in its own right, it's
Can you put some meat in the bone of that, some chicken, if you will, on the bone of that? It's a great club.
Well, I went to see Villa when they were 17th or 18th in the Championship, and I think they were playing. Well, one of the times I was there for a playoff semi-final when it was absolutely hopping one time. But I remember I was actually there to watch Reading, and Liam Kelly was playing for Reading, and Villa were dreadful at the time, lost 3-1 at home. It was Reading who were going for promotion at the end of that season, and yet they're still just around the stadium, around the sort of the atmosphere around the ground, the crowd was still probably around 30,000, and you're looking God, you're struggling in the the Championship here, and there's a real sense of like, I don't know where the ground's located. It was like families going together. These pubs, which are clearly Villa pubs. It's all the Villa people, and you're thinking, yeah, this club should not be where it is. Like in the same way that, I mean, when Newcastle were in the Championship, like they shouldn't have been there either, given the sort of the tradition of the club and the sort of passion and fervour that does exist. But in saying all of that in a complimentary terms, like it is still a place where the ceiling for what you can achieve, unless you get taken over by a state like Newcastle, is, you know, you can get so far. You know, how far can you actually get? And the problem is, right, the Premier League is a monster, and it's great now, but like the absolute sheer power of the Premier League to be able to go and take Unai Emery, you know, from Villarreal to like a mid-table Premier League club, who are probably just going to remain a mid-table Premier League club. If he does well, they might become a slightly better mid-table Premier League club. That's the stuff that like drives the European Super League and all of that closer, because the other leagues are like, well, how can we? This is going to embolden the people who are still going on about the Super League thing. So like it's great to be able to enjoy the Premier League circus and the entertainment, and like, we all watch it and talk about it and sit here and talk about it for ages. But in a way, you sort of end up hating it too, in the sense that like it's probably not healthy for football in the European context. That, I mean, you will see like Premier League clubs, mid-ranked Premier League clubs, like sign top players from top leagues in other countries that previously, you know, you would have thought players would have wanted to play for that club as opposed to and that's where it's money as well as the place to be, you know.
So Emery, it turns out, has been taking English lessons since he left Arsenal in 2019, because it's amazing how big the good evening thing became. Because even Gary Lineker tweeted after the appointment, "Good luck and good evening" to Unai Emery, who's the new manager at Aston Villa. And I was looking back at an interview he gave to The Guardian in 2020, and Emery was saying of his English, "I had a decent level, but I needed to improve. When results are bad, it's just not the same. You lack the linguistic depth to explain." He said, "Take good evening." And he said, he impersonated himself.
Say the line.
Yeah. He said, "Take good evening. Okay, it's good evening. But when I said good evening, when we won, it was fun. When we were losing, it was a disgrace," is how it was talked about. And he was criticised as being almost difficult to listen to. His English was so stilted, and would that be a factor in how well he was doing? So it's interesting that he was very conscious of it. I mean, there's such a multicultural dressing room now. It's hard to know. And Mikel Arteta's English is very accented and has its quirks as well. But the good evening thing it just caught the imagination a touch.
Oh, it sticks. Like you have the line and that's it. Like it's the same way. Like
it's catchphrase.
It's slightly different, but like, you know, like the American coaches in the Premier League are all sort of, when they're winning, oh yeah, but unfortunately a lot of them have been mainly losing.
Yeah.
You know, and then it's just like in a different way. Like, but they're all ridiculed.
They're referred to as Coach Marsh.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was the Bob Bradley thing which started it. But like, you know, Emery's perspective, like when he went into Arsenal, like that was always going to be the tough job. You know, you're filling big shoes then.
He only got 18 months.
Like, yeah, like he got that job for a reason. And yet, I mean, it's the story of you follow a dynasty, like you don't last too long, the next guy in, that's a familiar thing. Yeah. And like but that's what, like, his Villarreal story was brilliant, you know. And he did turn down Newcastle, or he like they had the interest from Newcastle. So you're sort of thinking he's wedded to that to a point, but clearly, I mean, he's been taking his English lessons, he's biding his time. I mean, maybe the game plan for him is to get back into Villa, do well there, and the next Super Premier League job that comes up, that's where he goes.
I mean, his track record, with the exception of Arsenal, which, as we said, would have been a difficult job for anybody, is absolutely outstanding. I mean, you can forget the 3 Europa Leagues with Sevilla. He won French title with PSG. Arsenal doesn't go so well, but he bounces back brilliantly with Villarreal, wins the Europa League at the expense of Manchester United and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in that famous penalty shootout, and then gets to a Champions League semi-final with Villarreal. So even if there is a ceiling there, you know, you list out those clubs and they're mid-table with aspirations, even if there is a ceiling there, he's going to more than meet that ceiling at Villa. It's perfect for him. You know, he can get a club with that stature playing to its potential.
You would think so. Although, I mean, like, you look at the Premier League this season, and this is part of the monster as well. Like, I was maybe talking about with the lads on Saturday, that, okay, Crystal Palace are playing Everton at the weekend. So you have Vieira and Lampard. And they're pretty much, with the exception of Moyes, as well, too, like, all the other clubs in the bottom half of the table had either changed manager or pretty much, like, looked like they were going to change their manager soon. That included, like, Jesse Marsh, Rodgers, who then had a big win at the weekend, but Steve Cooper, who had that stay of execution. And you're sort of looking, I mean, I think Hassan Hüttl is one of the longest serving managers in the Premier League now. And he's not even 4 years there. So, like, someone like Emery, really, like, is he going to be there in 3 years' time? Like, what does it say if he's there in 3 years' time? Like, has he done well? Or he hasn't done well enough, but has he done well enough to satisfy? Like, there's the shelf life there is so limited because there's only so much you can achieve, and as a result, people will get sick of you at a given point unless you're doing something really, really good. But that's the nature of the beast, and that's where the financials and all of that comes into it. Like, you get yourself into that market and then see where it takes you.
We're going to take a short break. They were just some brief tangents. I just wanted to mention the Aguero, 100 grams overweight. You don't play.
What is 100 grams? Really, like, how can you equate that to like a sort of a square of a Dairy Milk chocolate? Like, how much are we talking? Like, what's 100 grams here?
0.01 of a stone. That doesn't help. No. That's still a little bit conceptual.
That's, I'm trying to imagine a stone of chocolate now. Like, that doesn't really work,
During the ad break, how about this for the ultimate teaser? I will Google how much is 100 grams. Give me examples.
Because I know we're going to an ad, but
yes,
I always struck by is the Tyler Hamilton book, The Secret Race, and of course, like, Lance Armstrong. I mean, like, there was other things going on there, but I always remember that line of Tyler Hamilton being out training with Armstrong in the evening, and they might have like dinner and then dessert, and you'd see like Armstrong having a little bit of cake with dessert, like a small bit of cake with dessert, and everyone's looking at this going, oh no, we're going to have to train like trebly hard tomorrow because he's had this little indulgence here, but clearly Armstrong, with everything else that was going on,
no, look, you admired the man,
but he also but he also possibly knew, like, with his body, like, he was probably measuring his own little intake of things, and was able to, like, look at a piece of food and conceptualize what that means to me. And clearly it's like the jockeys as the classic example of that. They exactly know what, will I have a spoon of sugar in my tea, like, what will that do for me? That's about as far as it goes. But it's interesting to know if the Premier League footballers know, like, what, and clearly, because wasn't that, remember the time they had the Manchester United meal plan come out a year or two ago? They all went for a meal in a restaurant, and there was lads getting stuck into tiramisu or whatever for dessert. Feels like that might not be happening as much at City unless you really know your body extremely well.
I do remember Kev Kilban saying to me a while back that he's obsessive about their weight. Obsessive. So it's no surprise to hear Aguero say that. Speaking of jockeys, I always do remember Kieran Fallon was in years ago. He had a book, and interviewing him. And in the book, like, he would talk about jockeys, and occasionally they go out for big dinner. And then he'd say afterwards, and this is, not best practice, but he would say the car park then was just a line in the dark of jockeys puking into the ditch.
It's like, I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. Like, and you see any jockey that's remotely tall now, and you're just thinking, well, now I know that there's been stuff about moving up the minimum weights and stuff to try and make. I think they had to do some of that during COVID, I think, for various reasons, because people couldn't use the saunas in the track. But I mean, like, those lads, like, their granular knowledge of, like, what does everything represent for me.
They must feel it as soon as they eat something.
Yeah, like, and that's what they might sweeten the tea, but like that can be an indulgence, or like, a sort of a bite of a sandwich, like, or something. It's
look, we can relate.
Fantastic.
We can relate.
Listen. That's the kind of regime you like to sort of get into before you record Golf Weekly. Or
Indeed,
something.
I like to come on angry. So two things. We need to talk about Shamrock Rovers' third title in a row. We're going to hear from Stephen Bradley, and I will explain to you what 100 grams feels like.
Look forward to both of those things.
There's incredible radio on the way. So still 0-0 between Dortmund and Man City. Should mention Mahrez missed a penalty for City, about 66 minutes on the clock there. Back in 1 second.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch all the football you love, including the biggest Premier League games every weekend. Live on Sky.
This is News Talk.
Okie dokie.
Join Professor Luke O'Neill
Are we good to go?
on the Show Me the Science podcast
Right, here we go.
as he tackles a different issue each week.
Hello, Luke O'Neill here, and welcome to my Show Me the Science podcast.
From the serious
The vast majority of our nervous system is in our head, in the brain.
to the silly,
Worms like coffee.
all explained through science.
Let's cut to the chase.
New episodes available every Thursday on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud.
Thanks very much for listening.
You're hearing the signs of a street in India. For Yotsna, a 65-year-old lady, signs were all she had. She developed cataracts that in Ireland are easily treated. But because she couldn't see, she was abandoned by her family. People like Yotsna are the reason Specsavers support the Hope Foundation, an amazing charity who restored her sight. And when she could see again, they also found her a place to live. Find out how we're changing people's lives for the better at specsavers.ie.
Dundeel has the largest range of electric vehicles in Ireland from Ireland's trusted premium car dealerships. That's why you will find Western Motors Volkswagen on Dundeel. Stop by Western Motors Volkswagen showroom on Dundeel today and connect with them for great deals on electric vehicles. Dundeel, for electric vehicle deals to feel great about from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships.
Quilter cares for Ireland's forests sustainably. As our country seeks to combat climate change, we'll do more. Our ambition is to create new forests, manage our existing forests for greater carbon capture, and provide more habitats to enhance biodiversity. We'll support creating new homes by delivering sustainable Irish wood products. And we'll increase the number of beautiful forest recreation spaces for everyone to enjoy. Quilcha, forests for climate, nature, wood and people. For a greener future for all.
The O'Brien Spanish Wine Sale is now on. Enjoy up to 47% off all Spanish wine, some world famous, others from small quality focused family wineries. From Albariños to Tempranillo, including award-winning wines from Priorat, Ribera del Duero and Navarra. Don't miss our Monterreal Barisa Rioja Reserva, now only €12.95. Save 47%. Pop into your local O'Brien's or shop online at o'brienswine.ie. While stocks last, please enjoy alcohol sensibly.
Looking for ways to reduce your heating bills this winter? Our highly efficient Daikin air-to-water heat pumps are up to 5 times more efficient than traditional heating systems. Find your nearest dealer now at daikin.ie. That's DAIKIN.ie. Daikin. Your energy, your choice.
The Irish Centre for Diversity is proud to launch the inaugural National Diversity and Inclusion Awards. Taking place in Croke Park on Thursday, February 2nd, the NDI Awards celebrate individuals and organisations that go above and beyond in their commitment to diversity and inclusion. Free entries close this Friday and nominations are open across 10 categories, including race and ethnicity, gender, LGBTQ+, and disability. Visit ndiawards.ie for more. And remember, closing date for entries is this Friday.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
Welcome back to the Football Show, brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. Dan McDonnell is in studio for the evening. So I was reading out the Sergio Aguero quotes on how if you were 100 grams overweight, Pep Guardiola would fine you and often not play you in the upcoming game. To which you asked the not unfair question, how much is 100 grams? And I gave you a further conceptual answer of 0.1 of a stone, which probably didn't really capture it.
Shed zero light on the
No,
topic.
I would think so. It wasn't great. So I just did a quick Google there and came across early on 9 everyday items that weigh 100 grams. This is the website for us.
This is like this is why the SEO, the search operators, like these people, they know what you want.
The internet. Well,
fast food for the brain.
Someone published this piece on May 30th, 2022. God knows why they did, but we're here anyway. So let me give you some items that weigh 100 grams.
I mean, are you able to eat some of these things, or is that?
No, you need to imagine this in your body, and would you know the difference? 22 pieces of paper. Would you feel that? Would you know in the morning?
I mean, like, are they broadsheet pages?
No,
or,
I think they're
you know,
standard A4.
Can you just clarify? 22 pieces of paper. Okay, that doesn't. It seems like that could be a lot. I feel like I want to move on to the next one.
40 pennies.
40 pennies?
US pennies. It's a US website.
100 grams?
Yeah. 4 AA batteries.
4 AA batteries. And Pep, sorry, if someone is 100 grams over, they're in the bad books.
Don't train, you're fined.
I mean, 4 batteries seems like...
You seem like the small piece of chicken he was talking about.
Like it does. Like, I mean...
Sorry, he's militant about it. This is why Aguero was telling the story. He's not saying to...
The weight of 4...
Chiringuito.
Yeah, I know obviously it's different how you process it and all, but still, like, 4 batteries, that's...
It's tough. That's why he brought it up. You know, clearly for Aguero, this is not normal.
100 grams is
this is
crazy.
not normal. Yeah, this is really, really, like, on top of it. They have a medium tomato.
See, I mean, that's at least that's a food-based reference. Like, temporarily I was thinking about the impact of eating 4 batteries there.
Yeah. A small newborn puppy. We're done.
100 grams, really? Yeah.
Apparently. Box of 100 paper clips.
Again, I'm just thinking about someone eating all of these things now, rather than actually getting into the serious issue.
Bar of soap.
The weight here matters, so to speak.
That's all 9.
Bar of soap.
We've exhausted the website.
Okay. Bar of soap.
Kudos to whoever put that together.
I mean, they never realised that it would one day be the subject of a panel discussion.
No. So Shamrock Rovers, we're about to hear from Stephen Bradley, who was talking to Nathan this afternoon. Derry slipped up away to Sligo Rovers last night, 0-0 draw. They needed to win, and so with 2 games to go, Shamrock Rovers have won their 3rd league title. Rovers is 20th in total. Only 3 sides previously have ever done 4 in a row, including Rovers.
3 in a row. Only one has done 4 in a row.
Excuse me, only Rovers are going for 4 in a row to match the team of the 80s.
Yes, that's right. The 3 teams have won 3 in a row, but obviously one of those teams won 4.
Yes,
that was Rovers in 84.
The other 3 being Rovers, Dundalk, and
Waterford in the late 60s, 68, 69, 70, and then Rovers 84 to 87, and then Dundalk 2014 to 2016, and now Rovers 2020 to 2022. Now, in a way, you look at 2 teams doing it in a reasonably short period of time and ask yourself, what does that say about smaller leagues in Europe and periods of dominance becoming more frequent for clubs, which is I think a pattern around football in Europe generally, particularly in the smaller leagues. Right. You know, when you think about it, like in long history in the League of Ireland, and this has now happened twice in the space of a decade effectively, and it didn't happen in the sort of 90 years previous.
So by way of segue into hearing from Stephen Bradley, sum up this campaign, this particular Rovers campaign. Yeah,
I mean, it's a strange one because I think their achievements on paper are tremendous achievements on paper, yet I still, and I've made this point, and it's not meant as a criticism, it's just more a reflection of probably what you would imagine to be the case. I still feel like at the end of the year, when all the various panel shows are having their team of the year and manager of the year discussions, I'm not, across all codes, I mean, I'm not so sure if like Shamrock Rovers is going to get a prominent mention there, you know, which is possibly a bit unfair on them, but it probably reflects how to really break into this a mainstream element of discussion. Like, do you need to do something like what Dundalk did in 2016, which elevated them to another level? And Rovers, in a way, even the fact they didn't even win the title on the pitch themselves, in the sense that like it was a Monday night, it was a flat game, like twice in 3 years their league win has been another club dropping points. And really, while there was a mini title race this year, it was only because they temporarily opened the door a bit themselves by dropping a few points because they were busy in Europe, and they've actually struggled to juggle those two things together. So it's almost been so comfortable for them across the 3 years that you almost don't get as much respect in that, because they haven't been in some epic battle where some team where there's this game that suddenly people turn on to and they see them producing it. It's more like they just keep doing it again and again and again and again. And like the body of work that Stephen Bradley has done is incredibly impressive. Like, he started 2016, you had people calling for his head in 2018. Yes, Dundalk sort of imploded a small bit, which helped, but they've gone from being a little bit of a punchline a period of time ago to winning 3 leagues in a row, being in the group stages, you know, built their academy, built their stadium. Okay, you know, they've got a bit of help obviously with that aspect of things, the stadium, but they're in an absolute position of dominance now where it's very hard to see them relinquishing it easily. Yet, because they maybe haven't had outstanding rivals in that time, they haven't, you know, people aren't going, wow, we have to see this Shamrock Rovers team and see what they can do, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. As much as their crowds are up and like in their own level they're absolutely flying, but maybe in terms of the broader national discussion, maybe there's reasons why they haven't necessarily penetrated that in the way that a 3 in a row team you'd think they might.
And one last question before we hear from Stephen Bradley. Is it very much the same core of the team? I know they've lost a number of players. Are they on the up? Are they on the wane potentially? Is there more in this team?
I think, like, with this sort of implosion of Dundalk, which I've referenced, like the last couple of years, they've been probably able to strengthen their squad and get a deeper squad every year, pick up some players from Dundalk and from other clubs in the league. Some, like, I mean, Danny Mandrew, for example, like was struggling at Bows, or was out of favour at Bows, went to Shamrock Rovers for like 18 months, thrived. He scored again for Lincoln tonight. That's 2 games in a row in the League One he scored. Andy Lyons, who they took at the start of the season from Bows, is going to Blackpool, going to the Championship. So there is younger players, they've improved, but I think definitely viewed at what exists of this Rovers side now, they're quite an old team by like League of Ireland standards. Like, it's a very young league at the moment, the League of Ireland, and yet at times Rovers would put out a team with 6 players aged 30 or over in their starting side. That would happen quite frequently, and I think maybe even in Europe they could probably do with that little bit of freshening up and a little bit of speed and attacking departments. So they're very experienced, and probably that's why there's a sort of a ruthlessness about how they've won the league and how they've done it. But there actually will be a feeling, and maybe this is a worrying thing for other clubs, like despite winning 3 in a row, their squad possibly could do with a bit of work over the winter in terms of sort of a bit of regeneration in certain areas. And if they can get that balance right and freshen up their age profile a bit, there's no reason to believe that they will go backwards, even if they have to make a couple of tweaks.
Okay, well, Stephen Bradley was speaking to the media this afternoon. Our own Nathan Murphy went along for a chat.
Delighted to be joined by the now 3-time League of Ireland winning manager, Stephen Bradley. How does that sound?
Yeah, it sounds nice.
So it didn't happen on Sunday night against Derry, the grand finale. Derry lose last night. Where were you? Were you watching it?
No, I was actually at Talca. I went to watch Shells and UCD last night.
Ever the professional.
So I wouldn't watch it, and we have UCD in a couple of weeks, so I went to watch that. But I kept hearing the result, obviously, everyone was telling me.
So was there a little celebration last night?
Yeah, just a little. We went home and the staff got together and we had 1 or 2 shandies.
Very good, very good. This is the difference between a player and a manager. Gary O'Neill was saying he had a Nando's on the couch. They don't get to properly celebrate.
No, the players have a game Thursday, which is we have to prepare for Thursday and then Sunday, so you don't get much time. Obviously, at the end of the season, I'm sure they'll have a drink or 2.
When you were sitting down last night and reminiscing over the season, what are the moments that stand out as been really critical to winning this league?
There's been lots of moments throughout the season. That's why winning the league is the hardest thing, because there's so many challenges throughout the season. But I think Shells a couple of weeks back stands out in terms of the last few seconds of the game. Rory's finish, I think that really swung momentum in our favour.
Because it was clear from very early on, from the second week of the season up in Derry, when they get that win, that they were going to run you close, that there was a real quality to that side. Of the 3, does this feel like the most hard-fought one?
Yeah, just because of group stages of Europe and the fact we've been playing 2 or 3 games a week since the summer, so it's definitely been the hardest one in that regard, but that makes it more enjoyable when you actually do go and get it done.
And it's been difficult as well with injuries and managing injuries. People point to the squad depth, but you've really needed it with Pico Lopez been out for so long, Jack Byrne struggling to play a full 90 minutes even when he was fully fit. Graham Burke, it felt like he probably never fully got going as well. You've really utilised every member of that squad across the season. Yeah, we spoke the first day of pre-season as a group, saying what our aims were, and understanding that if we got to achieve some of them, that we'd need everybody to play their part. And the group have been incredible at buying into that and understanding that there's been weeks that they won't play, and then there's been weeks where they might play 2 or 3 games in that week. So they've been fantastic as individuals and the team, and in that regard, in terms of understanding when it's their time to stand up, that they're ready. Because on the outside, that would have been one of the questions early in the season, is how you get that balance of talking to a Graham Burke or a Danny Mandrea and saying, actually, you're going to sit this one out for the first hour. Like, they're not easy conversations to have with players who feel they're amongst the best in the league and should never be sitting on a bench. Yeah, the top players, that's the reason they're here. But I think we've built that relationship over time that we can have them conversations, and they understand that everything we do is around the group, and always has been, always will. And if we feel that there's one individual that feels that he's above that or doesn't buy into that, well then they don't belong here. And
So I think it's important that the right characters are here to allow you to be able to rotate like we do.
You don't want to talk about individuals, I'm sure, but I'm going to force you on a couple of them from back and from front. Alan Manis, 40 years of age. I know how I was creaking getting out of bed this morning. He's been exceptional. It's hard to think of a game where he didn't make a couple of big saves.
Yeah, incredible. I think a lot of people at the start of the year were looking at his age and thinking, can he be the keeper he was? I think this has probably been his best year since he's been back. I think he's been fantastic. He's made big saves in vital moments in games throughout the season, and he's been brilliant around the dressing room. He's been fantastic.
And at the other end, Rory Gaffney, you said after the game you feel he's been the best player in the league this season. Like at 33, are you in any way a bit surprised as to the level he got? Even watching him on last Friday night, like it was men against boys at times. The strength that he has, the control, the confidence that he seems to have in himself at the moment.
No, I'm not surprised. I played with Rory before he went to England, and I knew the quality he had. I seen up close, and when you know his character, he just has to be right in terms of injuries, and then what we've been seeing all year, you get from him. I think I've said it already. For me, he's the best player in the country this year. I don't think anyone comes close to him. I think he's been unplayable at times, like he was against St. Pat's, and he's had to manage the last 4 weeks with a bad injury. He's just been very rare to be in training. He's just been going game to game. So yeah, he's been, like, I feel he's been the best player in the country.
When a team has been as successful as Shamrock Rovers, there's going to be an awful lot of scrutiny, and particularly in the last few weeks, even though you've been closing in on the title, it seems to have increased because of Europe and the results, and even I think the cup game against Derry and the rotation. How have you found that process of having to rotate and maybe not being able to put out the team you want all the time? Because I suppose for the supporters, these are huge games for them, and they're looking going, like, we want to win everything.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and I understand people from the outside being slightly disappointed at times in terms of we're not playing what they would consider the best team. But I said from the start that I trust the group. If you're here because I feel you contribute to the team and the group. We all know you're at your best when you're playing the same 11 week in, week out, but you also got to be sensible, and you can't do that. You look around Europe at the moment, Liverpool, Arsenal, Celtic, they're all making changes when they've got big games, and we're no different. And when you make so many changes, it does disrupt your rhythm, and definitely hurts the team. But you have to think of the players' welfare and understanding that it's a long season and make sure they're ready for it.
Do you feel there's an opportunity now in the last two European games, then, with the pressure off, with the league campaign done, for the players to really go and express themselves and show what they're about in Europe?
I think a lot of the criticism has been really harsh in Europe. I think Joe Gardens at home, you watch the game, we should win the game. Molde last week, we should win the game. They score a first goal, it's 3 yards offside. We had real chances to win the game. Molde away, we deserved to get beat. That was a totally different game. I take responsibility for that. We were thinking of the league coming on the Sunday. And Ghent away, we shouldn't win the game, but we have chances to get a point out of it. So I think, again, a lot of people look at results based rather than performance, and when you break down the performances, we've had Ghent where we were just okay, Molde away where we were really poor. Other than that, we've been good, and if we bring that into Thursday, I feel we can go and win the game. Sure.
You had a couple of very important weeks personally in the middle of the summer. Firstly, on the football side, the decision to stay at Shamrock Rovers and not go to Lincoln. Again, a decision now that looks like a very wise one. Can you give us your reflections on that period and your thought process?
Yeah, just like I said, Lincoln, I said at the time, are a very good club and have real plans and really good people behind them, and they're going to be successful in their way. I've no doubt they will be, but I felt that we don't finish business. I felt we were at a really good moment. When I spoke to the board, I spoke to people who advised me, and I spoke to the players, and I felt we had unfinished business, and yeah, look, I'm the type, when you make a decision, you don't look back, you go with it, and that's exactly what I done. I made the decision, and I was really happy with it.
It came around a time of massive personal turmoil as well. You spoke about your son Josh and his illness, and talking to Gary O'Neill there, he said that was a real factor in the players' minds over recent weeks, that they knew every victory gave you and the family a bit of happiness, a bit of joy. Like, from the outside football, it's very hard for people to know what's going on. How has that been for you? Been in here every day, been at matches? I'm sure in one way it's a distraction, but at the same time it takes you away from probably where you want to be.
Yeah, it's been a brilliant release for me to come in every day and work with these players and this staff and take my mind off what's been the toughest year of our lives. But I think I asked the players when it happened to do everything possible to allow Josh to lift that trophy for us and get the medal, and they've more than held their end of the bargain. They've been incredible and how they've gone and done that for themselves, for the club and for the staff, but for Josh. So yeah, I'll be forever in their debt.
Yeah, I'd say he woke up a happy young lad this morning, and hopefully Sunday night against Derry can fully enjoy those celebrations.
Yeah, hopefully he's well enough to come to the game and celebrate with the players, because again, they've done it for him, and he'll be the happiest little boy in Ireland on Sunday.
You, as a manager, of course, we don't talk about 3 in a row. Gary said it was brought up about getting the second star. The 20th league title is actually something that now, forever for their careers, they're going to be able to look back at Shamrock Rovers and see 2 stars and go, we were the players, we were the group. Like, there must be an enormous satisfaction in that you've made that history over the past few weeks.
Yeah, that was our aim. We spoke about this at the start of the year, that I wanted this group to be the group that put the second star on the jersey, because like you said, when we're long gone, we'll always be that team that's recognised as the team that got that second star, and that's something that can never be taken away from you. And we've done that. Now we've got to enjoy it and then see how we get
4 in a row.
5.
Come on, 4 in a row.
Yeah, we've got to see
35 years is it since 4 in a row?
How we get 4, and hopefully we can get 4 and how we get 5. That has to be the plan. We have to think like that. We can't stop. We can't think job is done. We enjoy this. We celebrate this because you have to, and we will. But then when we next year, it's about going for 4 and then go for 5.
37 years of age, 3-time league winning manager. Do you ever worry about peaking too early?
I probably have peaked already. No, I think it's about hunger. It's about your desire to want to improve. And right now, that's definitely burning inside.
Well done, Stephen. Enjoy the celebrations.
Thank you, I will.
Not too shabby. Stephen Bradley chatting to Nathan earlier. We'll take a very short break. Back with Dan in just a moment.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, watch all the football you love, including the biggest Premier League games every weekend. Live on Sky.
This is News Talk.
The Woody's Haunted Home event is now on. All Halloween decorations, lights and costumes are half price, which makes for some scarily good savings. Offers available while stocks last, so don't miss out or it will haunt you forever. Shop in-store, online or with click and collect. Woody's, we're all homemakers. T's and C's and exclusions apply.
Taking the perfect selfie. Not as easy as it looks. You need the right angle, lighting, maybe a cheeky little filter. But then, that's it. Your GoDating.ie profile pic is good to go. And GoDating will take care of the rest. Two-way matching feature? Check. Add to favourites? Check. Member profile check? Check. GoDating.ie has you covered. Now, how are we getting on with the selfies? Oh yeah, nice. Use that one. GoDating.ie. As loved by News Talk.
Order. There's a lot to be said for it. Not the restrictive, always play by the book, straight down the line kind of order, but the order you place for a brand new 231 Audi. An order best placed having experienced true progress with a test drive at your Audi dealer, where you'll also get advice on finance options available to ensure owning your 231 Audi is as straightforward as possible, which is proper order. Visit your nearest Audi dealer, where future is an attitude.
Wetsuit on and underwater by air. Aprons on, breakfast orders in, conversation flowing, loving every second.
Every day is different. There's always new faces. It really suits me.
It fits my schedule. I can see friends, do my yoga, balance work with life and enjoy both.
My career in tourism works for me.
And mine works for me.
Get a career in tourism that works for you. Visit tourismcareers.ie. Brought to you by Fáilte Ireland.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Watch Premier League, Women's Super League, EFL, Scottish Premiership and much more. Live only on Sky Sports.
This is News Talk.
Late games in Champions League coming to a close. Shakhtar have equalised against Celtic in Glasgow. Bad news for Celtic, so it's 1-0 in that game. Dan, if you're a fan of those "you won't believe how bad this miss is" type videos, then there's one from the Celtic game this evening which will be chef's kiss.
Committed by who?
Shakhtar.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, very bad.
Oh.
Very bad. Right up there. Meanwhile, PSG are running riot now, 7-2 up against Maccabi Haifa. It's a very PSG scoreline, isn't it? Let's not worry about defending Maccabi. They can have 2 goals. What's 2 goals? That won't come back and haunt us later on in the Champions League knockout stages. So Messi, Mbappe made it 2, Neymar made it 3, Messi made it 4. Then they let Maccabi score 2 goals, as you do. Yeah. Then Mbappe made it 5. Then there was an own goal to break the run. And then Soler made it 7. Messi with the assist. All the big boys involved. We heard Stephen Bradley there, so I think people generally are aware of the situation surrounding his son's health, which must be beyond traumatic for all concerned. Diagnosed over the summer with leukemia, and the fight very much on. And so to try and juggle all of that, incredibly difficult, although even Stephen Bradley himself there said at times football a release, and I'm sure it must be. So that has been very much a part of their season, and even we heard him say to the players, it would be great if my son could lift the trophy. There's a real kind of emotional intensity about that scenario.
Yeah, and sort of having covered Stephen Bradley for Stephen Bradley's sort of managerial career throughout the time, I would say he's someone who'd be possibly quite guarded and wouldn't be like some people show their emotions easily, and I think that wouldn't necessarily be his reputation, and yet this year it's been unavoidable. And you could see today he was sort of quite emotional speaking about it, understandably. To put in context, he missed a game against Dundalk after the summer break, and I remember that night, I wasn't at that game myself, but just hearing he wasn't there, and it's what's going on here? And then you hear the severity of the situation afterwards, and how quickly Josh's son was diagnosed to the point where he had to start treatment. And you're sort of talking to Stephen Bradley after a game, and he's gone back to sleep in a hospital overnight, or you hear that during the week he's been doing sort of training and then hospital sleeping. And when he says football is a release, you can only imagine that's been the case. So it just adds another a layer that's sort of unimaginable, really, to the normal business of football talk. And of course, the thing I'm sure he just is desperate to get back to is that football talk, and doesn't want to be facing these questions all the time. Yeah, quite naturally, all they possibly crave now is normality. But it's something they're dealing with at the moment. He's spoken about he's still undergoing treatment at the moment. So, it sort of adds another layer to they've had a sort of, it's part of the football debate. And I think it's part of the sense of achievement they feel about winning the league is that they've been playing games every 3 days. They've almost been with this mad congested football schedule this year. The European group stage has been played off so quickly because of Qatar. They've pretty much been playing European football pretty every week bar 2 or 3 since the start of July. So when you can factor in that fixture congestion plus everything that he's been dealing with and his family have been dealing with in their whole life. Yeah, it's only
37 as well,
and he's only 37. He's won 3 leagues. Jim McLaughlin and Stephen Kenny are the other 2 managers to do that. Yeah. So it's he's got a lot of football life ahead of him, and we wait to see where he goes, because I still think he will have more offers.
Yeah, he was defensive of their performances in Europe this year, and he did say for one of the games where he prioritised the league game on the Sunday, that's on me. And then he said we weren't as bad in the other games as maybe has been portrayed. But certainly your point in advance of hearing from Bradley was that perhaps his achievements and the team's achievements are not as fated in the eyes of the general sports fan in this country. And I would say that's very true by comparison with Dundalk. Yeah. And what really put Dundalk and Stephen Kenny on the map were the performances in Europe. And so, I would think even from a selfish point of view, if he wants to further his career, that's the way for him to make a mark and to really almost have this team land with the general public, if that's important to them. I suspect maybe it's not overly.
No.
But it's certainly an aspect of what really made Dundalk capture the imagination, is doing it in Europe and doing it very well in Europe. That's the next step for them. I mean, a really good European campaign and not doing 4 in a row next year might not be what he would want, but perversely it might actually almost up the perception of Rovers amongst the general public.
I know, but I think the thing is, the Rovers' plan is about such dominance. They just want to win the league every year and then use that Champions route to get into Europe, and that it's in 3 or 4 years' time they can suddenly be very competitive, that they're in the group stages every year. And it's still like, but they beat St Pat's last Friday, and with the results last Friday, the league was effectively won last Friday. It wasn't officially done. And like we were talking to Sean Hoare, one of the players, and you do sense with the players a little niggling frustration that they've let this group stage thing pass them by a little bit, you know, that they might never play in them again in some cases. And there's a sense of, you know, before there was a real sense of, I wanted to play in these group stages, you know, all my life, the ones who'd missed out, and it has been a little bit unusual. Now I will say in future years the football schedule won't be as cramped because of the World Cup. There'll be a little more time to breathe in every sense, and maybe they can manage it a bit more, whereas almost it was something they nearly had to sacrifice a bit this year. They do have 2 games left. They play Ghent on Thursday, to the Ger Gardens next week.
Nathan said that maybe it frees you
They've
up.
no reason no reason to rest players now in those games, although they've a few injuries.
Do they really need to rest players? Like, even it was funny, I remember there was a Thursday, the game away from home.
I was there, Joe, in Molde. I mean, it was,
I had to listen to you moan about it the week after.
Yeah. It was tough going.
I know, yeah, sure. So but again, they put in so much work to get to European level, and then they sacrificed in effect the game, or didn't put out their best team for that game because of the game on Sunday. And you know, I would have thought they should be able to recover in that kind of time. Like Manchester United were playing that same night and had a game on Sunday, and there was no question of resting players.
True, but Manchester aren't at the end of their season with 3 games to go, going for the league. And on that Sunday they were 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go. They come back and they won 3-2 with a 94th minute goal scored by Rory Gaffney.
So it's vindication
there is vindication.
No, it's a fair point.
And that's
Very
about
fair.
like, there's about the short term hit versus the maybe another 3-4 million quid next year. So I understand why they did it, but I've said it again, it's more pragmatism than romanticism.
Yes,
you know, and that's
very
sort of what it is. Yeah.
Well, listen, it's still an extraordinary achievement regardless, and congrats to all involved. 3 in a row, and they're a force at the moment, there's no doubt. Dan, we're out of time.
Joe?
The Man City game's finished 0-0, by the way, in Dortmund. Our football show coverage brought to you by Sky. Watch every live Premier League game this season on Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. OTB AM, 7:30 as usual tomorrow morning. Tom Dunn on the way.
On radio, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud, and smart speaker. Play News Talk.
At Screwfix, we're giving you unbeatable value by cutting thousands of prices and trade essentials. Shop online or in over 28 stores. Screwfix, the choice of champions.
It's over.
Go, don't look back. Go get your life back on track. Though the